What happens before you defend the answer that calms you? It happens before you realize you are defending anything. At first, there is only an answer, a sentence, a meaning, a way to hold the situation without feeling too much pressure. And for a moment, it helps. The body softens. The mind has something to stand on. The uncertainty does not feel as open as it did before. There is relief. Not complete clarity, relief. And because relief arrives, the answer begins to feel important. Not only because it might be true, because it calms something that was unstable. This is the first movement. The answer stops being just an answer. It becomes the thing that made you feel okay. And once that happens, the mind starts moving around it differently. It becomes more careful, more loyal, more protective. Not loudly, not aggressively, not even consciously. But when something comes near that answer, a question, a doubt, a detail, a different possibility, the system feels it as more than information. It feels it as a threat to the calm the answer created. The first sign is not an argument. It is a tightening around the answer. Something in you becomes less available. A question appears, and before you even examine it, the system already wants to move it away. Not because the question has been proven wrong, because it touches the calm you just found. This is the moment before defense becomes visible. The mind does not yet say, "I need to protect this." It says, "That is not necessary. That does not matter. That only complicates things. I already know what this means." And those sentences can feel very reasonable, but underneath there is a small refusal. A refusal to let the answer become unstable again. A refusal to return to the open space before relief arrived. A refusal to feel the pressure that the answer had softened. So the mind begins to move around the answer as if it were delicate. It avoids certain angles. It skips certain details. It keeps attention on the part that still feels calming. And slowly, without making noise, the answer becomes protected before it has been fully understood. What makes this moment so easy to miss is that the defense does not feel like defense. It feels like balance. You feel calmer, so the mind assumes it is being clearer. You feel less exposed, so the answer feels safer to trust. You feel less pressure, so the question that touches the answer starts to feel unnecessary. This is where the movement becomes hidden. The mind does not say, "I am afraid to look." It says, "I do not need to look." That sentence can sound peaceful, but inside it, there may be a small protection. A wish not to disturb the answer that helped you breathe. A wish not to return to the uncertainty that existed before it. A wish not to feel again what the answer made easier to carry. And because the wish is quiet, it can pass for clarity. You are not fighting. You are not panicking. You are simply choosing not to go closer. But the choice has already been shaped by the calm you do not want to lose. Then comes the smallest turn. Something touches the answer, and the mind immediately tries to return to the version that felt safe. It does not want to explore the challenge. It wants to restore the calm. So attention moves very quickly, away from the doubt, away from the detail, away from the possibility that the answer may not be complete, and back toward the sentence that made everything feel manageable. This movement can happen so fast that it feels automatic. A question appears, and almost instantly, the mind has already answered it. Not with curiosity, with protection. It says, "No, that is not it. No, I already understand. No, this does not change anything." But the speed matters, because sometimes the answer comes too quickly, not because it is clear,
but because the mind cannot tolerate letting the calm be interrupted for even a few seconds. That is the moment before defense becomes obvious. The mind is not defending an idea yet. It is defending the state that the idea created.
This is where the answer begins to feel untouchable. Not completely, just enough. The mind can still speak about it. It can still explain it. It can still sound open. It can still say, I have thought about this. But when something comes close to the point where the answer might change, there is a quiet contraction. The mind becomes selective. It listens only to the part that supports the calm. It notices only the detail that keeps the answer stable. It ignores what would make the answer less simple, less comfortable, less useful. And this selectivity does not feel dishonest. It feels protective. It feels like preserving the ground you finally found. That is why the defense can appear before you recognize it. The mind is already choosing what it can allow in, not according to truth, according to whether the calm can survive it. And once calm becomes the condition for what is allowed to enter, the answer is no longer only being understood, it is being guarded. This is the moment where the body often knows before the mind admits it. There is a small pressure when the answer is touched, a small impatience, a small closing, a small need to return quickly to what already feels settled. And if you move too fast, you miss it. You only hear the explanation. You only hear the sentence that says everything is fine. But underneath, there is another movement. The system is trying to protect the relief that came with the answer. It does not want to lose the ground it just found. It does not want the question to become open again. It does not want the answer to become uncertain after it finally made the situation feel bearable. This is why observation has to become slower. You are not trying to attack the answer. You are watching what happens inside you when the answer is allowed to be questioned. If the body tightens, if attention narrows, if the mind rushes to restore the old conclusion, then something important is being shown. Not that the answer is false, but that the answer is doing more than simply explaining. It is calming. And what calms you can become protected before it becomes clear. This is where the pattern can begin to loosen. Not by forcing yourself to abandon the answer, not by attacking it, not by deciding that because it calms you, it must be false. That would only create another pressure. The shift is smaller. You simply begin to notice the protection around it. You notice how quickly the mind wants to return to the same conclusion. You notice how certain questions feel inconvenient before they are even examined. You notice how the answer becomes more rigid when something comes close to the relief it provides. And in that noticing, there is a little more space. The answer can still be present. It can still help. It can still contain something real. But now, it does not have to be protected immediately. It can be seen. It can be touched. It can be allowed to become less perfect without being destroyed. And this matters. Because the moment an answer can be questioned without the system treating that question as a threat, the defense has already started to weaken. Once this is seen, the answer does not have to disappear. It does not have to be rejected. It simply stops being untouchable. You can feel the calm it gives, without making that calm the reason it cannot be questioned. You can notice the relief attached to it, without letting relief decide what is true. And slowly, the answer becomes less protected, less rigid, less necessary to defend immediately. Now, when something touches it, the mind has a little more space. It can pause. It can feel the contraction. It can see the wish to return quickly to what felt safe. And in that pause, something changes. The answer may still help you,
but it no longer has to protect you from seeing more. That is where clarity begins, not by destroying the answer that calms you, but by allowing it to be seen beyond the calm it provides. This is inner cognition.